Hello everybody, this video is entitled Winners Win. They keep winning. Stunning moves from three companies that are cornerstones. Two of them are cornerstones in my portfolio, right? MicroStrategy, now called Strategy, and Tesla. Nvidia, a new addition to the portfolio. I added it in the 90s. I want to talk about these free stocks today, and I want to talk about the moves. But first of all, let's just go over the market. Largely green again today. So the past 6 days was green. Yesterday was green. Today was green. It's looking very much V-shapey, right? And I remember the articles, when we were in that valley of despair, when we were in that, bad moment of the crash, saying, oh, this will take months to recover. Doesn't look like it. This is the third crash that we've had in the 2020s, and this one looks like a V-shape as well, and so that's quite interesting to me. And of course, the past 2 days have been so outstanding. It's like I'm struggling to find things to buy. So, quick tips, quick viewpoints about this. So, I had a friend one time. He told me he was working for a declining industry, and he said, enjoy the decline. Let's enjoy the decline. Let's enjoy downsizing. Let's not fight it. And so in many industries, when you fight for downsizing, you make pointless investments, you make mistakes, you make buybacks when you shouldn't, right? Sears doing buybacks in 2004 is like a prime example that comes to mind. What I will say is, when you look at this volatility, I will say enjoy the volatility. When you buy elite companies, you're boarding a great roller coaster at a very fancy, expensive amusement park. You're boarding a great roller coaster. There's just a few winners, just like there's just a few great roller coasters out there. But make no mistake, the way is up. Look at this nice roller coaster right there. It's tumultuous. You could get shaken out, but the way is generally up, and the best roller coasters are hard to come by. There's only few of them. And just like when you board a roller coaster, when you buy a stock like a MicroStrategy, like a Tesla, like an Nvidia, there are some rules to follow. Don't get shaken out. How do you not get shaken out? You manage your emotions, right? And if it's becoming too much, if the red hurts too much, delete the app, go to the park. Manage your wipeout risk, right? Be careful with margin. Also careful with margin. Be careful with short-term options. Mr. Market does not work for your short-term options. It does not work for your cash secured put to not be exercised, or for your covered calls to not be exercised and you losing your shares. That is not how Mr. Market works. So be very careful with those two. Manage your risk. Be careful to not get wiped out. Stay in the game. Stay in the roller coaster. Do not get shaken out. And lastly, for trading, it's all about managing your itch to trade. This is the last thing I think that is still relevant in the intelligent investor, which is, if you have a portfolio, you're going to love your portfolio and you're going to want to change it all the time. A famous YouTuber sold Tesla at the bottom 3 days ago, and that famous YouTuber is now all over the internet being mocked for having sold all of your Tesla 3 days ago at the worst time. Well, that's because you didn't manage your itch to trade. You didn't manage that itch, and you made a big decision, right? I'm a big advocate of very, very small decisions, micro buys, micro transactions. If you really must transact and swap, do it small, and that's a good way to manage the itch to trade, and that's a way to do it that did not exist in the time of Ben Graham, the intelligent investor, because when Ben Graham, the intelligent investor, was around, it's not like accessing a broker was easy, and it's not like you could make, micro transactions. Today, you can do very small transactions and just manage your itch to trade. Sometimes I invest so little money just because I want to buy my itch to trade. It's like the price of a dinner sometimes. Multiple stock, I'll put a dinner there, a dinner there, a dinner in that one. Boom, I'm done with my itch to trade for the day, and I move on. That's how I look at this. So anyways, a fun way to enjoy the volatility. How do you enjoy the volatility? Well, have jokes in your head. Make jokes, and I often make these jokes. Don't make this joke in public, because nobody needs to know. But, think it. Oh, today I lost a house. Oh, today I lost my child's college student. Oh, today I made a Cybertruck. Oh, today I made college student. Oh, today I made a house. Oh, today I won a very nice house, and then laugh at the real craziness of this fact, which is really your companies didn't change that much in value. This change in value has nothing to do with the intrinsic value of your company. It has everything to do with a crazy fiat-fueled Mr. Market who is broken, and it's mostly broken because it's fiat-fueled. That's why it's broken. Who seriously thinks that Apple really wiped out $1 trillion of value in 2 months? You know, big countries don't even get $1 trillion in tax revenue each year. So I'm talking about very large nations don't even get that sum. And you're going to think that you can just make that evaporate just based with tweets? Just a few tweets and a few rumors can make that evaporate? The market, Mr. Market, is nuts. Fiat-fueled Mr. Market is nuts, because if you look at the change in Apple's valuation, you can explain a change in $1 trillion of value by tweets and back and forths, in which, by the way, nothing happened because iPhones are excluded. They're not part of the tariffs. They're not. So you know, it's nuts. Yeah, no, Apple, and as much as I think Apple is expensive, Apple did not lose $1 trillion of value in the past 2 months. That's the way I look at it, and this is where I enter in this analysis the top stock in the portfolio. The first winner of the day, who is up more than 5% today. Perhaps that's less impressive as how much it's up for the past 17 days. It's up 55% over the past 17 days. Do we really think that MicroStrategy increased in value 55% in 17 days? We went from 63 billion to 98 billion. Do we really believe that this stock can go up by 30 billion? The value can increase by 30 billion in just a little over 2 weeks? Of course not. It's the fiat that is broken. It's not MicroStrategy that is broken. And in fact, I believe we should start valuing MicroStrategy only based on the Bitcoin they have on the balance sheet. And what's the Bitcoin on the balance sheet for MicroStrategy? Well, on April 8th, they only had 528,000 Bitcoin. And on April 25th, so as of last Monday, they had 538,000 Bitcoin. So they went from 528 price of MicroStrategy to 538 price of MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy over the same period went up by 1.89%. But in fiat terms, it went up 55%. And that's because fiat is just plain crazy. And fiat-fueled Mr. Market really messes up with all of the values of our stocks, of our assets, of our houses, of our time. It just messes up with all of these values. It's not normal for the currency to do that. We are at a late stage, if you ask me. In the fiat world, this is a late stage, and this is why Bitcoin is winning. This is why it's a winner, and winners win. And another point, what is a proper time frame to assess the success of a company? Because, you know, this is all zoomed out performance. Look at this. This is all zoomed out. This is zoomed out too. What's the proper period? Well, I don't know what the proper period to say is, but I know it's not a year, right? I mean, why do we use a year for everything we assess? You know, a yearly taxes, yearly salary, yearly, you know, spending, yearly college tuition. Why do we use a year? Well, we use a year because of inertia, because the year is this concept that stems back from Mesopotamia 7,000 years ago. Nobody really assessed whether a year, or, you know, yearly physical for your health. Nobody really assessed whether a year is really the period we should use. I would argue, as far as companies go, and that's companies within the fiat standard, operating within the fiat standard, I think you need at least 5 years. And for some stocks, 5 years is not even enough to assess the performance of these stocks. So let's look at the long-term returns. Let's look at the returns of all of these assets since inception, aside from MicroStrategy, which I do, I use MicroStrategy since we're following the Bitcoin strategy. But in general, this is since inception, right? Because nobody was following MicroStrategy before the Bitcoin strategy. Look at Bitcoin. So GBTC, I use GBTC, of course, because it wouldn't be fair to go back to 2008. But I used GBTC the first time Bitcoin was Teslas accessible on the market, the average annual return is 65% a year, every year for the past 10 years. For the past 10 years, every year, Bitcoin has returned 65% compounded. That's handsomely beating the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is only 16%. MicroStrategy, in its current BTC Treasury company form, has only been around for a little less than 5 years, but it has performed 103% versus 13% over the same period for the Nasdaq. Tesla has been around, it's been publicly traded for 15 years. The performance has been 41% average annual return over 15 years, while the Nasdaq is only 18%. And Nvidia, the oldest winner out of the bunch, right? The longest winner, 26 years. It's been around for 26 years in the public markets. It's returned an average of 34.5% a year for 36 years. That's better than any asset manager. It's all about picking the one winner and sticking with the one winner. And of course, Nvidia is performed more than 3.5 times the performance of the Nasdaq. I believe all of these are winners, by the way. I'm bullish on all of these assets. You know, Bitcoin, the company that is built on Bitcoin, the first company that is built on Bitcoin, Tesla and Nvidia. And Tesla, a way to think about it, is it's the Microsoft of our era. It's the Apple of our era. Many of us, we didn't have the opportunity to buy Apple, right, in the early 80s. We didn't have that opportunity to get our hands on Apple. But guess what? Tesla is our generation's, well, there's multiple generations who watch my channel, but it's our decades and the last decade's opportunity. And the question is, how many decades is this opportunity going to last? You know, elite companies, you know, they usually last multiple decades. Is it 4 decades? Is it 5 decades? Is it 12 decades like Coca-Cola? I don't know, but elite companies usually last a long time. They outlast the competition. So let's talk briefly about Tesla now that I've covered MicroStrategy. Let's talk about Tesla. Tesla was up almost 10% today. And over the past 5 days, it's up 24%. And so, again, do you really think that the valuation of Tesla changed by $175 billion in 5 days? So let's call it 1.8 MicroStrategies. Did Tesla add 1.8 MicroStrategies to its market cap in just a matter of 5 days? No, I think it's an opportunity that was mispriced by the market. The market is still not understanding how to price Tesla. It's still not understanding how to price Bitcoin, how to price MicroStrategy, and even how to price Nvidia. Yes, even how to price Nvidia, and I'll get to Nvidia in a second. Let's talk about Tesla a little bit. The market saw some optimism for Tesla today. The reason why Tesla is up is, and if you had followed all of the YouTubers who talk about Tesla, they've highlighted that the federal government may have a more Tesla favorable stance. And this is what happened today with robotaxis and the federal government putting in some new rules and some new guidelines to put self-driving cars on the road in the US that is going to greatly benefit Tesla. This is why the stock was up today, an easement on the rules of full self-driving. If you had followed analysts who were literally obsessed about Tesla, and you know, I'll be the first one to admit that Tesla is a cult stock, but you get some really smart people and some really good analysis in there. This is Farzad. Some people like him, some people don't. I think he's fairly good. As far as Farzad goes, you know, he's right to point out the news media. Like it's still today. I write Tesla. You type Tesla. This is the news that you get. Or BYD entirely beat them. Yeah, BYD's earnings are great. BYD's net income is great. BYD's focusing on the now. BYD's focusing on today. And stacking that yuan. That's what BYD is doing. They're stacking yuans, right? They're focusing on today. And Tesla is not focusing on today. As a result of that, Tesla is bad because Tesla is only focusing on the future. Well, I'm glad that BYD is stacking yuans. I would not stack yuans. I would not prioritize profits today. I would always prioritize tomorrow. And when it comes to Tesla, yes, I believe the market is now realizing that actually actually the FSD opportunity, and eventually after that, the bottom opportunity, the embodied AI opportunity, is actually much more real than it thought, because they only look at Q1, you see. And in the Q1 analyses, well, the robotaxi launch was not in there because robotaxi is in June. Now that they're starting to look at Q2, they're like, oh, wait a minute. There's something happening in June. So the quarter today, which is all we care about, there's something happening in June. Maybe we should add a line to the model. Maybe we should just add a little line and talk about the potential, perhaps over the next 5 years, for robotaxi. Anyways, I fundamentally believe today, listening to YouTubers, listening to people who are obsessed about a single topic, and believe me, the Tesla followers are obsessed, not upset, they're obsessed about Tesla. I believe this to be a much more reliable source than the news, which quite frankly is very, very biased, and the news tends to be biased against winning assets. MicroStrategy is experiencing that right now, right? A lot of bias. How many people still, say it's a Ponzi? You make that experience of falling for the bias typically one time in your life, and then you don't. Me, I made that experience of selling for the bias back in 2015, where I sold all of my Bitcoin for $250 a coin, only to buy it back too late and too little compared to what I used to have. That's why. That's because I listened to the FUD. That's because you listen to the FUD. And of course, Bitcoin, there was a point where in 2015, Bitcoin, you had to be entirely crazy, ridiculous, stupid to buy that asset if you had listened to anybody, anywhere, everywhere. And, this is the same thing that's happening to Tesla right now. It's like everything is so negative about Tesla. We need to bring back first principles thinking to the world of investing. What is the expected value? Let's do a simple, what is the simple expected value of robotaxi? Like what's the expected value? Like even if you put 1% of odds of that happening, what's that expected value? And then do the expected value of bots. What's the expected value of bots? What if you only put a 1% odds of that happening and you do the expected value of bots today? Well, you get to valuations that are much higher than what Tesla is right now. The problem is that it requires thinking a few years down the road. It requires thinking perhaps 2030 and beyond. And Bitcoiners are really good at doing that. And that's why I think actually a stock like Tesla or a stock like Nvidia is a stock that Bitcoiners could really, really understand. And I'll conclude with Nvidia. So Nvidia, to think that this stock, I think it went as low as 88 midday that one day. And so, of course, the stock, it had a double crash. Of course, we had the tariff bad crash where everything got sold off. And so Nvidia got sold off because tariff bad. If tariff bad, stocks bad, bonds good. And then you sell Nvidia. And then it had another crash with the H20 the loss of the H20. And turns out it was not that big of a surprise. It's not a big deal. Turns out the market doesn't think it's a big deal anymore because the stock gained it all back. Well, guess what? Anybody who had looked at the H20 could have thought it was not a big deal. This was already a dumbed down version of Blackwell that was specifically made for the Chinese market. It obviously was not a big deal. And obviously, Nvidia is going to, put provisions and say they're going to lose X, Y, Z because it helps with your taxes. It helps with management of expectations. But nonetheless, that shouldn't have been a big deal. And it turns out it was not a big deal. And so people are going long again, Nvidia, and they're realizing that the main beneficiary of the AI revolution is going to be the provider of equipment, and in this case of AI equipment. If you go back to the electrification of industry back in the early 1900s, the main beneficiaries were the Westinghouses of the world and the electrifiers of the grid, as every single company purchased their product, as every single household started onboarding electricity, every single city started installing streetlights, electricity became a thing, and the providers of the electrical components benefited greatly. Well, AI is going to go everywhere. AI is going to go everywhere, whether it's your cities, your education, your creativity, your companies. Everybody's going to want AI. In fact, I would argue they already all want AI. And so really, is it Blackwell and done? Do we just have a Blackwell upgrade cycle? Well, if you had watched GTC, which was about, was it 6 weeks ago now or 5 weeks ago, you would know that the roadmap for Nvidia goes much further than Blackwell and much beyond Blackwell. And in fact, I will show you a few things. I'll show you this first. This is Blackwell compared to Hopper, and Hopper was last year's big deal, right? Nvidia Hopper was the big deal of last year. Now there's a ramping on Blackwell, and so top companies, top data centers are replacing Hopper by Blackwell. So we are on the 2025 upgrade cycle. And of course, Blackwell is 68 times the performance of Hopper. But guess what? In 2026, 2027, right, mid-26 to mid to late 27, there's another thing coming. And it's called Rubin. And Rubin, based on GTC, is going to be about 13 times the power of Blackwell. And guess what? After Rubin, there's another product roadmap. There's something else planned after Rubin, and that's probably 2028 by now. You know, they still are at the drawing board stage. But that's going to be the Feynman version. And Feynman is going to be what? 10x faster than Rubin? 5x faster than, you know, than Rubin? So I guess the point I'm trying to say is how many orders of magnitude is Hopper and Feynman going to be apart? Is it going to be 4 orders of magnitude? Right? Is Feynman going to be 10,000 times faster than Hopper? And so what do we know from 0 to 1? What do we know from books about being faster, stronger, cheaper, better? Is that adoption goes through the roof whenever you have these improvements, right? It's not like buying a new soap. A new Procter & Gamble soap cleans 5% better. Are you going to buy the new Procter & Gamble soap? Probably not. But if the new Feynman is 10,000 times more powerful than Hopper, are you going to make the switch? And oftentimes it is the case. It is how it works with technology. And so I think the lead that Nvidia is having in this sector is becoming overwhelming. And I'm glad to be back into this stock. And, you know, this is a cornerstone of I mean, I would like this to be a cornerstone of my portfolio. It's not. It used to be. Unfortunately, I sold it for a profit, and I thought I was real smart. Well, turns out to have been a big mistake, right? And that's why I'm never ever selling my Palantir. It's one of these stocks. You know, some of the stocks, unfortunately, you can't use valuation metrics except for Nvidia. Oh, that's the last thing I wanted to say. Nvidia's valuation metrics. It looks to me like it's the cheapest of the Max 7 stocks. Feel free to zoom on that. To me, it's the cheapest of the Max 7 stocks. And I haven't updated Tesla and Google in there. I need to update it. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. This was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.